T. McDougall here, book review number 2 for the day. I've been slacking, but I'm getting back on track. Check this one out. The New Tsar. The Rise and Reign of Vladimir Putin by Stephen Lee Myers. Let me start off by saying I knew nothing of Russia. I knew nothing of Vladimir Putin. Just dogmatic truth that I've heard other people say in news, and people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about is the truth. Making up opinions like they know what they're talking about. It's like, I know you have no idea what you're talking about, so why are you forming opinions about this guy and Russia? Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, that's okay. It's totally fine. But don't act like you know what you're talking about and pretend to yourself you know what you're talking about. And if you do that, at least be aware that you're speculating. Okay, so learning about Russia was on my to-do list for about a year and a half now. And this book came out and I was like, oh, I don't want to put another book in my library because I'm trying to wrap up my reading. But I just had to dive into this one, and wow. I'm going to start off I usually start off books with the good stuff. I'm going to say just quickly the bad stuff in this book. I found just where I'm at with my life, with my business, I'm just working all the time. I found this book very challenging to read. The writing style wasn't my favorite, I must say. It was very articulate. Also combined with, there's a lot of like Russian words and names and that they're hard to pronounce. And it's because I'm not that smart, right? I'm learning. That's what you're reading a book. You're reading a book to get smarter. So this book took me a while to get through, I think almost a month. And, but I didn't consistently read it. But when I did sit down and consistently read it, I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. I want to keep reading this book because I kept turning the pages and I didn't know what was going to happen next. And the cool thing about this is it's real. All these movies they make, all these books about sci-fi, fantasy. And I used to read all those, man. I read Lord of the Rings before it was even turned into a movie, and I like The Hobbit better than Lord of the Rings. And anyways, but this stuff is real. So now that I know about history and human evolution, and I'm starting to learn this path last 4 years or so, I don't really spend any time on stuff that's fake or pretend or comedy. But this book just, wow, man. I'm not even going to attempt to cover everything in this book because it is mind-blowing. And the reason why I read so much and study people like this is because like, if you study great people and you surround yourself with great wisdom, great knowledge, great work ethic, humility, gratefulness, appreciation, hard work, that is the path that will lead you to success. And it's the journey that you go through. It's the interpersonal growth. That is the big thing. And if you're in this realm of entrepreneurship, spiritual growth, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. And depending on what stage you're on, my audience right now, the people I want to connect with, are people on this similar level to me. They're like, yeah, you know what? I understand what Jesse's talking about. I hear what he's saying. Oh, wow. I've got a unique perspective. I got value to add to people listening to this video blog. And for people that are thinking about entrepreneurship and stuff, or just wisdom in general, and you want to do that leap from, job to entrepreneurship, use this information, because I just wish I had someone like myself to talk to when I was younger. But now that we have access to so much information, it's crazy. So sorry for my rant, but we'll get into it. I don't think I highlighted a lot, or I did hide a bit in the book. The biggest thing was, so I'm not going to try to cover everything in this book because it's too much, but I will highlight a few points. Vladimir came from humble beginnings, and now he's one of the richest men in the world. He's in control of an entire country. the largest landmass country in the world, I believe. Anyway, so it was interesting to see the Soviet Union, how big it was, and then it broke apart into individual states, into Russia, and Russia's still huge. But Vladimir Putin got his rise basically by being a loyal person. He was in the KGB. He was a spy. He realized he wanted to be a spy. So he was a spy, and then he got in political office. Make a long story short. But he was very loyal to the party he was involved with his boss. He did not, what the book says, you got to take, what the book says, what really happened, but loyalty, discipline, stoicism, staying calm. I just read another book, calmness is contagious. So yeah, that was really good. That's the biggest thing. Loyalty. I can't stress that enough. Okay, it's like a minute rant on loyalty. But man, if you're loyal to someone, and I've been loyal to quite a few people, and I've been burnt quite a few times, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep being myself and imposing my philosophy and my will into the world. And at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with yourself, that's cool too. So it's interesting to know about Russia before Putin came into charge. It was very, very, very corrupt. Oligarchs. Oligarchs are successful businessmen who influence government policies because they have the money. Money is power. If you have the big bag of money, you can tell everyone what to do. And everyone listens, because if you take away the money, they can't eat. Okay? And that's just the game. That's just the martial arts of money. So Putin came into power, and there's like a lot of terrorists, bombings and stuff like that. Like, it came into a serious time. So it was not easy. And a lot of his tactics are not westernized. They're unconventional. But he's dealing with a whole set of problems that the Western doesn't have, like Canada and the US. I guess in terms of country growth or political growth or whatever, I guess we're further along the curve. But what Vladimir was able to do is take a broken economy and, whether or not you agree with it, it's really irrelevant. He was able to put billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of profits into the Kremlin's treasury. Okay? How many billions does the US have in their treasury in excess cash? None. They owe trillions in debt. How many billions does Canada have in their treasury? None. They owe a lot of money. So I would rather not owe money if I didn't have to. So one interesting thing is, that's what Vladimir did to the country. They're in so when he came in and made all these changes, economic boom. That's all I'm going to say about that, which is that in itself is phenomenal. And I keep preaching about politics and coming back to economics and being practical, and people don't, I just find a lot of people don't follow numbers. And when the numbers are in line, everything else falls in line. All the rehab programs, the education, the school. But if you don't have profits and you don't have an economy, there's no money to pay for this stuff. Things cost money to pay, and you can't just whine and complain and stuff gets given for free. Like in Canada, for example, I used to live in Brampton, and I was the only white guy there. I was the minority in the area I lived. They call it like Bangladesh or something. And I talked to one of my neighbors, and he said, "Oh, you guys are stupid." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Canadians are stupid. Like, we just come here and complain, and the government gives us free money." He's like, "It doesn't happen like that over in Bangladesh or India." It's like, you don't have any money, you die. So it's pretty wild. Anyways, that was off topic, but Okay, so what else about Vladimir that was good? So the biggest thing was the money, and like the Kremlin basically took over so much business and ran it from the government. And there's a chapter here called Kremlin Inc. about how the government is basically just a business, and so much corruption, his elite getting rich and stuff like that. But this book really reminded me of a podcast of Dan Carling when he covered Julius Caesar, when Julius Caesar was assassinated by everyone. And a lot of people don't know this, after Julius Caesar was assassinated, there was an insane thousands of deaths because it was politically unstable, and there's so much turmoil and death that happened. And then Dan Carling finishes the podcast off with, well, corruption exists no matter which way. Like, no matter what dynamic you have in government, corruption exists. Okay, so deal with it, number one. But is it better to have corruption in the hands of a select few or a lot more? I don't know. It's a great question. But that's what this really reminded me of, like the Kremlin Inc. chapter, and they're talking about Putin and the government. And it's like, yeah, okay, there's probably some unconventional stuff, probably criminal activity, whatever, but that exists in Russian history for hundreds of years. That's how the country is been. And Vladimir brought it to a place where they went from debt to a lot of money, and he brought the Olympics, I believe the Olympics to Russia. It was a huge thing. They spent so much money on it, and it was pretty amazing. Oh yeah, okay, right here. I highlighted it. A new tax regime Putin imposed on oil companies poured money into the state's coffers. The shares of profits the government received had nearly doubled, and revenues surged from less than 6 billion, listen to 6 billion when Putin became prime minister, to more than 80 billion. 80 Bs, bro. The Russians now talked about becoming the largest oil producer, surpassing Saudi Arabia. So this dude put 74 billion more into the state coffers. Yeah, that's going to help your country. You can do a lot of positive things if you can put 74 billion in your state coffer, regardless if, right hand, left hand man got a million here or whatever. Like, I mean, that just comes with the territory. That's just business, man. So like, just deal with it. He is surprised to maximize the impact and keep the media's attention on him. Oh yes, one thing I want to say is, even before, this is before social media, Putin knew that controlling the media was power. He knew that right away. And this is before social media was even a thing. Like, this dude, man, he's got a lot to learn from this book, man. And, you got to take the good with the bad. Study the bad, but study the good, man. Don't fault people for the one bad thing they do. Praise them for the 9 good things they do. This book's amazing. Like, I just, I wish I was in the know with a lot of this stuff, because, you don't know everything. There's no way you can. But at least after reading this, I definitely have a good understanding of Russia's history from the other history that I've known, and how Putin is, I feel more educated in terms of I can have somewhat of a conversation, or it exposed my worldviews that, like, there's a lot of problems with democracy. And so seeing this way done, just seeing how things are done differently is very interesting, because there's not just one way to do things, right? There's your way, there's my way, whichever way you just decide and go with it. So this is my Vladimir Putin video blog. I'd really like to get some discussions going on this one. It'd be great. So sorry for a few tangent rants off topic, but this is an off topic topic in my opinion, from what I know so far. So I really enjoyed this book. It was definitely an eye opener and make you ask some serious questions and realize how big the stakes are and how big the game is. Like, reading all these business books and these great leaders, I'm like, I feel this big, but I also understand pattern recognition and, okay, well, I found something here very scalable, very profitable. I'm reading all this stuff, And then with my accounting background, my auditing background, I'm like, okay, well, I stack some chips here, make a couple chess moves, I can be in this level of game, and so can you. You just got to make it happen. All right, guys, take care, and I really enjoyed doing this video blog, and I hope you got some value out of it. I kind of butchered the book in terms of what the book gives, but I'm not here to review what is 500 page book. There's just too much in here, man. I'm not an expert on this, but there's a lot of value here, and I believe, man, any business leader, any entrepreneur should read this book, because it shows someone from literally nothing to becoming one of the richest men in the world ever, controlling an entire country, and he's done some great things. So yeah, check this out. Heed the wisdom. Take care.